This month has been all about the hips. So we're going to talk about the 4 poses that we worked on this month and the ways that we modified them. So again, if there's hip pain and there's maybe a little bit of unevenness in the hips, then sometimes other muscles will try to kick in and fire and help to stabilize, and that can cause some issues. So to really help to strengthen the hips, we talked about tiger pose, coming here, really engaging through the lower belly, engaging through the rhomboids in the shoulders. So we're here, and we talked about how we can bring this up. We could use this hand and reach back this way. We could use the same hand if we wanted to make it a little more challenging. We could also just bring it straight out. Don't overextend the knee. But what we're doing here is we are getting that glute max and the hamstrings to fire. So that will build strength there. The other one that we talked about, which I feel like is a pretty common one, at least in my world, for people that I know, is fire hydrant. So we can be here. We could even be a little tiny movement just like that. And what we're getting here, we're getting abduction and lateral rotation. So we're strengthening that piriformis, strengthening glute main, glute med, part of TFL. So the other thing though is if you have really bad sciatica, I'll be very cautious with that. So we're here. Again, to make it a little more challenging, you can bring the leg out. And again, you can go as little as you need to. The other ones that we talked about were, here we go, a reclined twist. So again, we can rest a bolster here. We can grab a bolster even before we've reclined, if we know that we're going to need one, right? You bring it up, drop the knees to the side. Shoulders stay on the mat. We relax. We're stretching out some of the obliques, right? Some of the QL, some of the rotating muscles. You can always use a block here behind the sacrum if you needed to, or maybe one side you need a bolster here and one side you don't. You know, you can always roll the other direction without one if you don't need it. The other pose that we talked about was seated forward fold. So I typically sit on a blanket. I think a block is a little bit tippy for a forward fold. So you can sit here. We could roll up a blanket under the knees if we needed to. And again, we're playing with that angle. So are we lifting the seat, which lets us sit up nice and tall, right? We can roll this under if we need to soften that a little bit for the knees, create a little bit of protection in that joint. And again, maybe we're just here. Maybe we're wider. And maybe then we slightly lean, but the movement's coming from the ball and socket joint. We're not bending here. We're not leading with the head. Nice open chest. The back moves as a unit because the hip is where the mobility is happening.